Hello world of YouTube, and welcome to another episode of Comic Hall, the segment where I feed into my addictions to comic books. Yeah, we got a beefy haul this month. Been doing a lot of scooping, a lot of shopping. As always, we're going to break it down by, place I went to. And I figured I'd start with my online haul first, because you guys know I like carousing. mycomicshop.com. It's my go-to comic book shopping place, and I picked up a couple of stories, couple of extensions to stories I've been trying to get all of for years at some points, and just some stuff I'm going to be talking about later on down the road. I got the second chapter of Iron Fist 7 Capital Cities in Heaven, which is round 2. I got the second part of that, so I'll be continuing to get all of that to talk about eventually, because I really like Iron Fist, and I'm glad I'm kind of seeking out some of his stories to read, as you'll see later on in the video as well. I also got a couple of issues of Blood and Thunder. We've almost got them all. This has been kind of like my white whale of comic book hunting. I've been slowly getting all of the issues of Blood and Thunder, and I'll be excited to read it and talk about it with you guys, but I got some of the Warlock and the Infinity Watch parts, along with one of the Thor parts as well. I'm so excited to see what this story is gonna stem from. To think that it all started with an Ollie haul, and now that I'm almost done with it, all these years later. I also got my Halloween special this year, Blade versus Dracula. I didn't think I was actually gonna find it, because when I was looking for it initially, I couldn't find it. But I'm glad that I did, because I talked about Doctor Strange versus Dracula last year. I'm gonna read this before Halloween, or before the Halloween season, and talk about it in October for you guys as well. And I'm excited to have that sort of in the books now, sort of sealed down to get. Now I'm actually going to rearrange this, because I went to my go-to comic book store around here as well. I went to My Comic University, and I picked up a handful of comics from there as well across 2 trips. So these are both of those trips kind of combined. I just am separating it by story that I got, or like contributions to the collection as a whole. But to start off, I got this Overwatch comic produced by Dark Horse. It's following Tracer, which I like Overwatch. It was one of my games of the decade. I play Overwatch still sometimes during the events. I play it a lot less than I do now. But I bought this because I was curious about what story it was going to tell, because I know that the trailer for the game talked about Tracer, and she was kind of the first peek at the series. So I'm curious as to what story this is going to tell. I may talk about this in ARC at some point, but I got all 5 issues of it. It's only a 5-issue story, so I figured I'd scoop that up. Something different from the superhero stuff I've been getting. So I'm excited to read that, because I still like the lore within Overwatch. I like that there is a lot of it there, and I'm excited at the prospect of them potentially doing more with that in the sequel, because I feel like they definitely flopped at points of the delivery of it in the first game. But regardless, I got that. I'll read it at some point. I also got the next 3 issues of the Iron Fist, a new Iron Fist story that I'm trying to get all of, Heart of the Dragon. I got 3, 4, and 5. Again, I'll read all of it, once I know that I have all of it, and I'll talk about it with you guys. But it's Iron Fist. Like earlier in the year, I got a lot of Iron Fist. I'm still getting more Iron Fist. This is the year of Iron Fist. You know what I mean? Outside of that, though, I got a couple of oddities. Just stuff that that piqued my interest, that I can thumb through. I haven't bought a new Ghost Rider comic in a while. I haven't bought a new Ghost Rider comic since I've really gotten into Ghost Rider as a whole. So I picked up a new issue of Ghost Rider. Read it. See what I think about it. It's called Return of Vengeance. Ghost Rider looks hard as fuck on this cover. I also got a couple of throwback comics. A celebration of Captain America, 80 years of the hero. Looks like similarly to that Batman comic that I got, the 1000th issue of Detective Comics. It's got just a bunch of little different styles of Captain America stuff. So that's a fun little celebration of the hero. And then I also got, it looks like just a throwback Daredevil comic. A meaty, beefy issue with Bullseye versus Elektra. It looks like this is what the movie was based on, to be honest, which I think is hilarious. But yeah, it's got that vintage style to it. It just looks like a repressing of an old comic, which is cool. Last Hand, that's what it's called. Came out in 2019. Little Daredevil comic in there for you. And then lastly, I also went to the Exchange, where I normally do my record collecting. One of the ones I go to has a lot of trade backs. It's where I got that Ultimate X-Men that I talked about reading a lot in high school. And I got the trade back that takes place before that, chronologically. This is Volume 3 of Ultimate X-Men World Tour. I've never read this one. I don't remember reading this one. This cover doesn't jump out to me quite like that one did. But I'm excited to read it because I loved Ultimate X-Men. And I'm excited to see what this has going on in it. Yeah. That was a nice little, another sort of find at the Exchange that I went to. And yeah, that's my haul. Hold it! Between filming most of this video and when I'm going to be posting it, I actually went to Tennessee for the weekend with Rachel, and we swung by a local comic store out in Seaverville called Escape Reality Comics, and I picked up a decent haul there, and I figured instead of sitting on it until I filmed another comic haul, I would just add it to this comic haul and make it just a beefy episode. The comic store itself, Escape Reality Comics, was a really nice setup. They had a great, huge collection of comics, old and new. They had some rare comics as well. Like, they had a copy of The Amazing Spider-Man 1 in the flesh, like a really well-preserved copy of the comic. It was, like, graded and all that sort of stuff. It had some really cool rarities that I'd never seen in person, and it was really cool. They had a lot of collectibles and stuff that you would see in a regular comic store. But it had a nice setup. It was a chill atmosphere. And I had a lot of good found a lot of good comics at a good price. So, figured I'd add them. I got some small stories fleshed out a little more, some lead-ins to stories that I've covered already on the show, and some pieces of bigger puzzles that I'm wanting to add to, along with some just fun oddities. So I'm going to go ahead and just add those to the collection real quick, starting with a couple of Spider-Man comics that are smaller parts of smaller stories. I got part 204 of this Clone Saga story called Exiled that I found for the first part of in North Carolina. So I figured I'd grab the second part of that. I found the conclusion to a 2-part Punisher Spider-Man crossover called Vengeance. So I snagged that as well. They had part 1, and I was like, they gotta have part 2. I grabbed a handful of Ghost Rider comics as well from the early run in the 90s of Danny Ketch's run. I got issue 12, which is at Doctor Strange, and I was like, why the hell not? I gotta get me some Doctor Strange. I got the 2-issue lead-in to that Spider-Man Ghost Rider comic series, that 2-part twofer that I covered on ARC. I got the lead-ins from the Ghost Rider side of things that has more of what Johnny Blaze is doing and more of him fighting the Ghost Rider to free Danny Ketch, which I wanted to see, so I'm glad that he had those, and I bought those as well. Another sort of oddity that I grabbed this Doctor Strange comic with him versus Morbius. You know, I had the whole Dracula Doctor Strange thing. I figured why not, he had a Morbius one crossover, why not get more vampires in my Doctor Strange. I also found a part of the Damnation arc, a huge Doctor Strange story that I've been kind of trying to get all of in the background. Some of the issues of this have become hard to find, so I'm trying to scoop them up when I can. And they had a variant cover of the 4th issue of the overall Damnation story, not one of the compendium readings. And that'll be an arc that I cover when I get it all. Similarly to Blood and Thunder and Spider-Geddon, those are kind of the 3 big arcs that are sitting in the background of my collection that I'm trying to get all of. Speaking of big collections that I'm trying to get all parts of, I also found another part of Blood and Thunder. I found part 4. I was looking for the rest of the parts I had, and they had a couple of issues that I already had, but I knew that I didn't have part 4, so I figured why not get that. And I think I have most of the Warlock and the Infinity Watch stuff now. There's a Thor one that I know I'm missing, but we're getting there. We're just towing that line, baby. We're getting so close. And then lastly, I've had a crossover that I'm happy to have found in person, and I'm excited to read. Punisher and Batman. It's a Punisher-Batman crossover comic. I love these two heroes, or these two, well, this hero and this anti-hero. I love these two comic book characters. and I'm excited. I've been looking for this forever. I'd known that this was a thing, and then I have a couple other crossovers, but this is at least one of them, and I'm really happy to have found it. And I'm surprised it wasn't more expensive, but I guess this isn't really as sought after as maybe it is to me. But I'm happy to have found this and to have added it to the collection. But with that, World of YouTube, we are actually wrapping up this comic haul. What did you think of the issues I added? Do you like the heroes that I talked about? Let me know in those comments down below. If you did like this comic haul, be sure to give it a like. If you want to see more of my music, gaming, and general nerdery content, be sure to subscribe. Special thanks to my patrons. If you want to join their ranks to get early access to content, exclusive content, or to help drive the community, it's linked in the description. I'm going to get out of here, though. Thank you again so very much for watching. I have been Viral Rack. You guys have good days, lives, and situations. And I'll see you another day.